Hello everyone, and welcome to today's panel discussion, Integration Platforms as a Service, Necessary Evil or Critical Business Tool. My name is Josh Winters, Director of Partnerships at Virtuoso Partners, and I'll be your host as we dive into this webinar with our group of industry experts. Today, our panelists will share their insights, experience and perspectives to help us unpack this question. Whether you're an IT leader, a business strategist, or somewhere in between, this session will offer you valuable viewpoints to guide your approach to integration. Let's get started. Mike, Gabe, do you want to kick things off with an introduction?
Yeah, my name's Gabriel Enright. I'm an enterprise architect at Virtuoso Partners. I've got a long track record in integration. I started back when mainframes were integrated point to point, then the SOA years, and now with the advent of iPaaS, I carry that forward now with Virtuoso Partners as the architect.
Cool. Thank you, Gabriel. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Kiersey. I'm the Global Solutions Lead here at Workato. I joined the business about 18 months ago. Like Gabriel, I come with a wealth of experience, and over the last 20 odd years, I've been helping organizations transform and solve complex business problems with the innovative use of technology. I'm here and excited to spend some time with you as part of this webinar to share our experiences. So with that, what I would like to do, first of all, is really get some discussion going with yourselves and really explain the market that we see today from an iPaaS or integration platform as a service. And this is a somewhat evolving market, as you'd imagine, with all of the various different trends that are happening. And 2 weeks ago, Gartner released their Magic Quadrant, as you can see here on the screen. And you can see from a Workato perspective, we are the furthest in the top right-hand quadrant in terms of completeness of vision and execution of what we're achieving as part of that. There's been some significant changes as part of the Magic Quadrant this year. There's some changes in terms of two very larger organizations, Salesforce or MuleSoft and Oracle, which have moved out of that magic square to the top right and into the sort of challengers stroke execution area, which is quite a significant shift for big organizations that have been delivering integration for quite some time. More notably, the removal of two others, TIPCO, which has been around since the early 80s in delivering some of that technology change, the early forms of enterprise service bus, and also software AG. You can see now that there's shifts that are happening as part of that. Also, when you look at the quadrants for the previous years, actually everyone has moved slightly to the left, and that really is twofold. One, actually the consolidation and convergence of many new technologies coming part of this, the introduction of what we call BOAT, business orchestration and automation technology tools, which will fall as part of that. iPaaS in its traditional sense, and really where we are today from the world of AI and agentics, those new convergence of technologies have actually now started to sway where that Magic Quadrant sits. So you'll see more people have slightly moved to the left-hand side more than others. And I think from what we see is in the value from a Workato perspective is the product completeness and vision that we bring to help organizations, build and adopt a strategy that will allow them to orchestrate all of those complex applications and data services across their organization. The customer experience that we bring, was second to none in terms of our engagement with our customers who come first, second, and third for us in providing completeness of support insight and know-how to help people really get the maximum value out of the platform, and also driving innovation, right? We're continuously changing what we do as part of a platform. I don't think there's anyone else out there that can release over 700 changes a year as part of what you do in terms of enhancements, bug fixes, security enhancement, and projecting new technologies as part of that. I would question anyone who's looking at an iPaaS to really consider is, what is the change? Am I going to be keeping up with the market as part of that? And we are that thought leader in this particular space.
Thanks, Mike. So a quick question. Off the back of the release of the Magic Quadrant and the rapidly growing iPaaS market, what are the top pain points that are driving customers to adopt iPaaS solutions?
I think there's a couple of the traditional ones. One is cost, right? using and continuing to use what I would call legacy iPaaS, those from the previous eras, is expensive. There's a resource cost associated. There's technology debt that would come as part of that. And actually, most important things around productivity, speed to value, being able to deliver more programs and project changes quickly and efficiently is a big one. Time to value, right? If instead of taking months to actually build use cases and deploy them, and the business is sitting there going, when am I going to see that return? How do I keep up with the market changes that are happening as part of me? And I think one of the most important things, the advent of AI, or the ubiquitous access of AI. From a boardroom level, everyone's discussing artificial intelligence, but where does rubber hit the road? And I think organizations are realizing that they might have a very complex architecture and setup. Actually, they've probably got silos of excellence, but they're all disconnected. And for AI to really work at an enterprise level, you really need a lot of these systems connected to each other to enable that to happen. And I think that's what's driving and fueling what's happening in this particular market as well.
Great. Gabe, for organizations that are still heavily reliant on manual workflows, legacy systems, what at VP are you seeing the hidden costs of not modernizing with an iPaaS?
Yes, well, in business, everything's getting far more complex. There's more systems, there's more integrations, products are more complex. So our old systems, our old workflows, and our old ways of working aren't really cutting up with that demand and giving us the agility to move forward to seize these opportunities. So manual processing, ad hoc workflows have sort of grown organically out of the need to get things done, get business processed, and get things in. And a lot of people have made a lot of effort to make that work. But unfortunately, scaling people's not is probably the most expensive way to do it. And that's usually because there's constraints with integration tooling and integration systems. What can we integrate? Well, if you've got a lot of legacy legacy SOA systems or integration platforms, there's very few things you can. And the reason is because there's a massive shift that's gone on to cloud-based applications now. So we've come from a world where everything was in a data center, everything was held privately, and we put the integration tools in there, and now everything's external. But the integration platform didn't come along with it. So now there's extra complexity to manage. So that aging infrastructure doesn't get any more reliable either. It has more and more outages, which have cost implications on businesses, and they're also expensive to maintain. There'll be a time when you actually need to have to modernize the technology and move to an iPaaS. But everything you do now without that is creating technical debt that you'll need to take into that initiative. So they're the costs, Josh, of what's at stake if you don't make a move on iPaaS.
That's great. Thank you very much. So Mike, for the people that are in attendance today that are thinking about implementing an iPaaS, can you give the audience some common examples, some challenges about implementing an iPaaS and how Workato can help them address them?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of common challenges that are out there. Gabe pulled on some of the things from a pain point and barriers as well. I think for companies who are now defining that strategy, I think those who are thinking, hey, how do I become a more connected business, right? Or a connected enterprise as part of that. Some of them are looking at this more tactically and say, I've got some simple use cases and I need to develop point-to-point completeness between different systems. Or actually some of them are looking at it and going more wholesaling, hey, our ability to hire and onboard employees into the business is fragmented and fragile. How do we build an integrated experience that would allow different parts of the business to manifest? And even being a hiring manager, where we interface with the talent attraction team, we work with human resources, we work with IT, and actually there's a lot of complexity as part of a business process. And how can we build all of that together? How can we really start to stitch all those different needs and systems together, streamline and automate some of those processes? So when a new person comes into the organization, instead of everyone rushing around trying to figure out which systems do they need based on their persona, how do I order them a laptop and mobile phones? actually there's a completeness of a workflow that actually automates and brings all of that together. So what might traditionally take, a week and a half to do manually, this can now start to be done in 15 minutes. Right. And through that whole track, we can start to see all of that together. And as part of it, having the human in the loop, so different people coming in, if that's the hiring manager, also the candidate, right, that you're bringing in, feel that whole experience and value that they're going to get from a new organization. It is the most exciting time that someone joins an organization, and we have a very short period of time to make a positive impact. So when someone starts on day one, it's already nerve-wracking and they're excited, but the feeling that, the completeness that you've got all of the tools and you've got all of the access to the systems, and you can start actually learning about your new role as soon as possible is huge. I think many of us have been through organizations where we've joined and not connected, and by the end of the first week you still don't have all your applications. It doesn't really give the great feeling as for a new person joining an organization. So that's one great example where we're helping organizations really streamline and optimize a core business process.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you for the insight from a market perspective and a Magic Quadrant perspective. Shall we take a bit of a deeper dive now into Workato and give some more Workato specific insights?
Yeah, absolutely, Josh. And I think, talking about, different use cases, and I think really one here I want to talk about Atlassian, right, which is the first box that you see on the left-hand side, right? And you've got 100,000, right, hours that have been saved over the first 12 months. They've been able to start to integrate. Let me just give you a little bit of a positive. Everyone knows them from a technology company perspective, rapidly growing organization, but to what Gabe talked about, hugely manual in terms of what they did on a day by day. And the area that we were initially focusing was in the finance organization, where they've got, account validation, receivables, etc. And they were burning hundreds of or tens of thousands of hours each year in those manual processes to get things done. So one of the things we helped them look at this is, how do we help centralize? How can we leverage artificial intelligence to provide some context as part of that? Some of those applications that you can see there, we've got Slack, we've got Cooper, Jira, Excel spreadsheets, and NetSuite as part of their ERP implementation. Bringing all that together, bringing that together, when they were doing things manually, it would usually take them 2 or 3 months to actually be able to deliver a change in the organization. Actually, now that's been able to be down to less than 3 weeks. So think about the pre-planning, the testing, the deployment, and the support that's needed, which is all packaged up as part of that timeline. Manual processes, they went from, they were sort of managing anything between 8,000 and 9,000 processes a month that were going through the system. They're now being able to reduce the time supporting those in terms of validating what took approximately 10 minutes to validate a financial transaction. Actually, that down to 2 minutes. So you can see about the volume of activity, and they've been able to define some good key metrics as part of it. Closing their books at the end of the month or the end of the quarter or the end of the year traditionally took about 8 hours. That's now down to 3. So when you think about the finance, they can actually, represent and understand where they sit as a business very, very quickly and efficiently. And really what they've also done is they've built an ecosystem around the Workato and what they're doing. So it's not just about IT people being able to do this. They've embraced the business, and that fusion between IT and business users to build that business technologists is really important. And they have over 49 people now leveraging the Workato platform, both from a technology perspective and a business point of view, to start driving change. And that's where they're seeing the huge amount of value of productivity gains, reducing complexity and allowing them to build a more connected business for the long term.
That's great, and I think obviously the commonality across these customers is that they're business problems, right? They're business challenges that Workato are helping fix. Would you encourage the users to think about business challenges and how Workato and iPaaS can help as opposed to more technical challenges?
Yeah, there's always going to be those underlying technical challenges. At the end of the day, we all work for businesses, and those business processes, how we can optimize them, make them more improvements is probably where we should start. At the end of the day, and if that is a lead to cash, or it's employee onboarding, or it's financial reconciliation, each of these areas all play critical cogs in the big engine of the business. And if one of those is jamming up, if I would call it, everything starts to slow down. So, you can also place some good business metrics that allows you to really think about what the business case is going to be achieved as part of that versus, oh, we're just doing a technology for technology check. Actually, you're deploying a technology that really enables us, the organization, to deliver more swiftly, more concisely, drive productivity, gain better insight, actually fueling a culture of maybe data driven or thinking about innovation that will allow them to pivot as an organization.
Right. Gabe, obviously you touched on your experience in this space. How would you summarize Workato's approach, and how does that differ from some of the traditional integration tools, especially for the non-technical teams within organizations?
Yeah, so Workato, when you onboard to Workato, you don't just buy a software product or a license. You actually join a community of practice, and they've done that very well. There's a lot of like-minded customers that they bring together in community groups, and everyone leverages off each other, which doesn't happen in your traditional software packages or software communities. And that's testament to that is if you go into Workato, you can see the pre-written recipes that people have shared that saves you heaps of time if you can instantiate one of those into your products, and also the connectors. There's thousands, I think, of connectors to all the major SaaS providers. So those onboarding journeys that Mike was talking about before, well, once you've connected to your SaaS applications, and they're built for connectivity, it really is assembly of services, assembly of those onboarding recipes, and bang, push them into production. So you join a community, it's a strong community, and you also are able to leverage assets that have been created by that community, and then also you can productionalize those quite quickly with a group of citizen integrators, i.e. not developers. And I think that's the big part of iPaaS that's attractive now to organizations. You don't need deep technical expertise to deliver a service anymore. If an API is there, it's ready, and there's a connection to it, I can just assemble that. Workato's approach around training is fantastic. There's a free academy there. You can skill yourself up to whatever level you want to become proficient in integration and automation, all the way up to the partner training that I've just done. So it's a complete package. It's a fantastic tool, and it also, the approach is around getting people into the community, getting them collaborating, getting them trained up, and then shifting it left out to the people who can actually do the work out in the business units with a low-code tool. So that's my take on the approach, Josh.
That's great, Gabe. And I suppose leading on from that, and getting it into the hands of the users, do you have or can you give a practical example, maybe a before and after scenario where integration iPaaS has solved a critical problem for a customer, which has then had a sort of an impact on their business?
Yeah, so the effects or the benefits of doing things in Workato are significant to an organisation. We deliver value at Virtuoso Partners in Workato every day on a daily basis. There's something being done, something being launched. A couple from this year that I've just been involved in, a major drinks supplier. They have to do a lot of site visits for stocking and maintenance of equipment. It's a big challenge to book those across the national workforce of multi-skilled type people, and to get everything where it needs to go so that operation runs smoothly. If it goes wrong, it can be very expensive, and it can eat a lot of the profit away if people turn up at the wrong location. So in the first 6 weeks, they did 185,000 site visits, and were able to automate them, where before it was all paper based. So huge value in that use case for that business, and that's core business delivering value. Another one we're working with is a large legal finance firm. They have networks of legal professionals all over the world. It's very difficult these days to onboard customers and to know where they're from. KYC, know your customers, a big part of doing that sort of legal financial work. So we were able to build out their onboarding process with know your customer checks being like PEP and sanction screening of people before they actually engage on them. And that's a de-risking strategy. But when you're talking 5,000 lawyers across the globe, that's a big thing to undertake using people. And that's where Workato delivered value. Now, I have several other, as I said, we deliver value every day for our customers. I have several other of those ones, but it's not the, let me say, the sexy use cases where the value is. It's the pragmatic ones, the ones that pose big challenges that eat huge, pockets of money to keep and to sustain them as processes. And they're usually the less sexy ones, right? And that's where the value is.
Great, thank you. We've touched a lot on the benefits that iPaaS can provide for customers. For the people in the audience, what assurances can you give them around security and scalability of the platform? What best practices do we put in place to reassure the listeners?
Yeah. So I'll address scalability first. Nothing's going to scale better than Workato. Built out on native AWS. It's built with scale already intrinsic to the product, which is a significant change to when you implement your own integration or so a tier. You actually have to supply the capacity, and there's a lot of cases where capacity becomes an issue for it. So and capacity really affects scalability. If you have no capacity in your compute tiers, you won't be able to scale much. Whereas Workato, built out on native AWS, really does handle scale. Every recipe operates in its own container, so it really is a good microservice type approach where the operation of one service won't impact the operation of the other. That's the first bit about scalability. Security, is at the top of everyone's agenda now. There's two aspects to the security. The inner architecture security of Workato, that's very well documented. When you buy it, you get your SOC 2 reports, the pen test reports, everything you're going to need to convince your internal cybersecurity teams that it's that it's a robust product there, which it is. The second is the outer architecture, and that's how it integrates with everything else. And there's always a bit of work up front to do with the internal IT governance and the security teams to get the platform over the line as being a catalogue item that people internally can consume across the organisation. That's where Virtuoso Partners come in. We do a lovely Workato Foundation piece, which is setting the tool up for success. It's how you are going to multi-tenant the tool, how you're going to organise your workspaces, how you're going to connect with your systems, what are the security protocols there. Then what are the governance points? Workato has a good governance framework called Gears. So for the inner architecture, we adopt that one. And then on the outer architecture, there's a lot of governance and guidance that will be provided by your internal teams. Well, we take that on. We create a high-level design against that as a foundational piece. And that then delivers you a production-ready system. So if demand comes through, project demand comes through, you can mobilise it quickly because you've got something embedded that is security approved. You want to connect to a new system, well, you just do a little piece of governance around that connection, make sure all the communications and the protocols are being adhered to, and now that system's in play for assembly. So that's the approach. Scalability built into the tool. Security, there's always a bit of work to do there to convince the internal teams, and also to understand, to harden the platform, if you like, for production-ready traffic.
That's great. Thanks, Gabe. We mentioned on this slide about iPaaS gaps, future readiness. Mike, I'm keen to get your thoughts on where do you see the biggest gaps in the iPaaS market today, and how do you think that they're going to evolve over the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. I think there's a number of gaps. I think if you look at some of these, I think organizations are looking at iPaaS, and there we've got also a collection of other tools, right? And if that's doing robotic process automation, or we're doing a little bit around data management or data pipelining, or we've got platforms for doing what I traditionally call EDI or B2B, right? API management, or they want to invest in. So what you tend to find is a lot of different tools and patterns that you can use, right, for each of your different use cases. One size doesn't fit all. And what we're seeing in the market is a huge consolidation of some of these. Gartner predicts that the growth of the what I would call iPaaS plus plus market as we see the harmonization of different capabilities coming together. And what that allows people to do is really just look at platform approach versus point solution to solving problems that they have today. I think the other thing is we look at that, AI is fundamentally shifting how we do integration and automation, which really leads us to building, the approach around enterprise orchestration. So think of this as not traditional iPaaS. Think of this as enterprise orchestration platforms that really takes your business to the next level. So you still have all the traditional capabilities of API management, event streaming, right? Managed file transfer, data management, I just talked about all before, but actually think about how AI is going to have that. And there's two folds to this. One is AI is evolving to help platforms get better. And also it's enabling customers to build AI as part of their business process, or even then launch to that next scale. So we see it in a couple of areas. As part of our platform, AI has enabled us to build what we essentially call co-pilots. And really organizations need to start thinking about what their platforms are going to give and deliver to them. In a co-pilot world, it's an assistant that helps you use the platform. And in some cases, it's going to take the time down to build and deliver, projects swiftly. The one that Gabe talked about around there's like IT, and there's also that fusion of the business, is think about the ability to sort of pair programmer. You have a business sort of analyst who can actually have a natural language conversation with the platform, and actually you've got a seasoned developer. So you can bring these two worlds together, right? So they can work in partnership or in harmony through the use of technology. One's has the knowledge around, iPaaS or integration or automation. The other one really has the domain expertise around what the business is trying to achieve. As part of that, you can infuse AI to help the organization bring more quality context and information back around what's happening around a given business function. That's one. And what it also does, it allows us to layer on, everyone's talking around agentics, that ability to have AI make decisions on its own based on a set of knowledge bases and what we determine as skills to do activities and automate processes on behalf of the organization, at the same time still providing that sort of human in the loop. So we see some of the gaps around the traditional thinking of what a product is. When you start to bring all of that consolidated together, and you start to bring the advent of artificial intelligence as part of it, it is now springboarding that capability to an organization, which is now taking away all of that. Maybe it's more helping demystify some of the gaps that we're seeing as part of iPaaS moving from traditional side to being a fully enterprise orchestrated platform for change for an organization.
Great. So for organizations that want to go on or want to start their enterprise orchestration platform journey, what carrot, what nugget would you give organizations? Where's a really good place for them to start?
There's a couple of key areas I would say on this, and Gabe can back me up as well from your prior experience. I think first one is to what Gabe said, where does rubber hit the road? Don't go after the big complicated things. Start small, gain confidence, all right, and experiment as part of that, and you release more changes. So we've all been through transformation by an organization or even digital, and if they're big waves of programs, they take time to do it. For any of you who have read the Atomic Steps book, actually having little changes on a rapid is when you look back over a 12-month period, you have lots of change that's delivered in part of the organizations. For me, the fundamental building blocks are have a defined strategy with measurements around what you want from a business perspective, provide the governance that is needed to manage this. As people get their hands on the tool and realize the power of what it can bring, the last thing you want to do is create, another problem for yourself. So bringing that governance in a way that's flexible and agile. Start small and ramp from there. And also think about design for change. Don't design to build. You know, the pyramids have been around for 2,000 years and not changed. However, if you look at an electric car, it changes on a daily basis with new software updates. So think about designing for change, and also think about what you're designing for the future. Just because the way you do something today doesn't necessarily mean it's the most optimally appropriate for what you want to do for the future. So coming in with an open mind, leverage the capabilities, work with teams like Gabriel as part of that to really take and harness some of those best practices. They would be my key nuggets, takeaways.
That's great, thank you. And I guess I'm conscious of time, but I'm keen to get one sort of nugget from Gabe as well. So Gabe, from your perspective, if you could ask the attendees on this call to embark on one actionable step, what can they do in the next week to start their iPaaS journey? What would that be?
Yeah, okay. So where you're going to have success is where you identify demand, and you'll have demand. There'll be projects and there'll be departments that really have demand for integration and automation. I would say go out and find that demand. And be able to then put that demand into a plan or into a pipeline where you can start to service it. And when you have demand, you need to determine what value will come out from the demand. So pretty quickly, if you can identify some demand and you can put a value against it, pretty soon you have a business case for iPaaS. And what it can deliver. Also, I would be looking for pockets of cost in your IT infrastructure and inefficiencies in your processes. People will tell you where things are broken. Well, they are opportunities for iPaaS. All the bad stuff, because they're the challenges it deals with. So I would look at the demand, I would assess the value, that would construct my business my business case, and then you're away. You're able to have conversations, and the other big part of it is to get it in your forward budgets and your forward estimates. If you need to jump at something kind of brand new program, and you haven't put money in the budget, then it's a hard graft to get things funded. So think about that. You will need to introduce one at an iPaaS or a similar sort of tool at some stage. And demand and value are a good way of proving it out, proving the case, and getting it started.
Great. That's excellent, and I think that probably brings us to the end of the webinar. So I just want to close things off by saying thank you so much to everyone that has attended today's panel session. A huge thank you to Gabe and Mike, our panelists, for your time, insight, and expertise. We covered off a lot in that session, so for anyone that missed it, I just want to reiterate that the recording will be made available to you shortly. We'll be sending out emails and links along with any of the resources that we mentioned during this session. For anyone that wants to take this to the next stage and are interested in a follow-up session, we would be more than happy to tee up some one-to-one sessions with Mike and Gabriel. If you are interested in embarking on your iPaaS journey. So thanks again from the three of us. This is the first one of a series that we're running, so please do keep your eye out for the next one, obviously on a different topic, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you all.